Hey everybody, and welcome back to another episode of Rogue Deck Wednesday. In today's episode, we are going to be covering Fluffal, a very versatile deck that can function going first and second now thanks to a recent addition to the extra deck, which is our marvelous Frightful Whale. This is a level 9 fusion monster that takes one Edgent monster and one Fluffal monster to make, and it has two very important effects. It has a non-targeting pop effect unsummon, and a quick effect where you can target one fusion monster you control, send one Frightful card from your deck or extra deck to the graveyard except Frightful Cruel Whale, and if you do, the targeted monster gains attack equal to half of its original attack until the end of this turn. This is an insane effect, both of them, not just the attack gain effect, because when you use the pop effect, it does not target. So, you can declare its effect, wait for your opponent to respond, and if they don't have something that negates but they can still chain something, you're basically baiting out two cards at that point, which is just incredible. Also, the new card Edge M Scythe, which is one of the new Edge Imp monsters, protects you from destruction by battle or by card effects by banishing it from your graveyard. This is a replacement effect, so it does not activate, so your opponent cannot chain called by the grave when you're, declaring the replacement effect here. So, let's go ahead and just jump right into the deck profile, and I will explain things as I go along. First of all, we have PSY-Frame Driver because this is the best card in the extra in the main deck. It is the best hand trap in the game. We all know it by now. We have 3 Fluffal Dog. This is basically the Stratos for the deck. We have 3 Fluffal Penguin. This card is an additional normal summon, so you normal summon this card, activate its effect to get your secondary normal summon, and then normal summon another Fluffal monster from your hand. Also, when this card is used as fusion material for the fusion summon of a Frightful monster, you can draw 2 cards, then discard one. So it's a good way to kind of recycle your hand a little bit, gain more advantage, and also if you have the Toy Vendor spell in your hand, if you discard that, Toy Vendor also triggers in the graveyard to Rhoda for another another Fluffal card, or Edge of Saber, I believe that's what it is. Next, we have 1 copy of Fluffal Dolphin. I know some people play 2 copies of this card. I feel like one's fine. This card lets you reset your Toy Vendor from your graveyard, and then it foolishes any Fluffal card, I believe. So it's really, really good at recycling your Toy Vendors and setting up for the Wings combo, where you banish Wings and another Fluffal card in your graveyard, target one of your Toy Vendors that is face up on the field, draw a card, destroy it, draw another card, and then you get a search off of Toy Vendor, so it's effectively a +3. Next, we have Edge of Chain. This card, when it's sent to the graveyard, allows you to search for a Frightful card from your deck to your hand, so that'll be Frightful Patchwork, or technically you could search Frightful Repair, but you usually want to send this card off Cruel Whale, or you can search for your Frightful Fusion, which if you don't have a copy of Patchwork, you haven't used this yet, you'll always search Patchwork, but if you don't, you're normally going to search for your Frightful Fusion as a good follow-up spell. Then we have 2 copies of Fluffal Bear. This sets Toy Vendor from your from your deck to the field face down, and you can also tribute this card and target one Polymerization in your graveyard and add it to your hand. That's an often overlooked effect. People don't often have trouble getting their fusion spells to their hand, especially with the introduction of Frightful Patchwork. But if you're kind of in a slow game state, you're really kind of struggling for your resources and need to make a quick fusion play, this isn't a bad card to summon or search, get it on the field, tribute it, get your poly back, and then kind of make your plays. Now we have 1 copy of Edge Imp Sabers. This is just a mandatory one of, because 1, it's the only searchable Edge Imp card through your Fluffal Dog and through your Toy Vendor, amongst other means. But you also need it for Frightful Tiger, which allows you multiple pops on your turn. So it is really good to have, but it's just kind of bad in multiples. Now we have Edge Imp Scythe. This is the last of the Edge Imp monsters that we play. We play this at 3. During your opponent's main phase, this is a quick effect. You can reveal this card in your hand, fusion summon 1 Frightful Fusion monster from your extra deck using monsters from your hand or field as fusion materials, including this card in your hand. If a Frightful Fusion monster you control be destroyed by battle or card effect, like we talked about earlier, you can banish this card as a replacement effect from your graveyard instead. This is amazing, and both of these effects are once per turn. So effectively, this lets you fusion summon your Frightful Cruel Whale on your opponent's turn and get a free pop. It also allows you your monster protection, so if you don't have any other setup on the field, or if you're going second, you can target your Cruel Whale, it does not get destroyed, and then you still get the non-target pop on your opponent's field. Really good addition to this deck. Then we have the 3 Gamma. Sadly, this deck doesn't have much room for hand traps while maintaining the 40 card count, because you have to play like a lot of consistency cards and a lot of other cards that help kind of mitigate when you have to go second to fight against combo decks. So Gamma is definitely the big one. It's probably the highest impact hand trap while negating and also destroying the card. It's also good to kind of push your Frightful Patchwork through if your opponent ashes it. You definitely want to have that Gamma there so you still get to resolve and get your fusion and also a Edge Imp monster from your deck. So We only play 3 of these, and then we have 1 copy of Fluffal Sheep. Now this is an interesting card because I see some people cut this and just not play it. I also see some people play cards like Fright for a Cat, which when you fusion summon with it, it lets you recycle a polymerization from your grave and add it back to your hand. But I feel like Fluffal Sheep is just better because it facilitates rank 2 play, or link 2 plays, excuse me, which gets you into your Cross Sheep and your Anaconda, which are both really good additions to this deck. So basically, while you control a Fluffal monster except Fluffal Sheep, you can special summon this card from your hand, then you can return 1 other Fluffal monster you control to the hand, special summon 1 Edgent monster from your hand or graveyard. So if you happen to, I don't know, maybe miss timing when you accidentally right-click when you're playing on EDO Pro and don't trigger your Edgent Chain in the graveyard, you can resummon it to the field, link off with it, then use Chain's Effect, which, God, I cannot express how often that has happened to me when I'm just kind of mindlessly going through my Fluffal combos on here. I just accidentally right-click or fat finger the right-click button on it, and then I just effectively have said no to triggering Fright for, Edgent Chain, which doesn't give me my Fright for spells. It's so frustrating, and you'll probably see this in the replays, I believe. It happens with shocking, it happens so much, oh my god, I almost quit recording, I just could not deal with it. But moving on, this does let you kind of get into your Link 2 plays, gets more monsters on the field. It's just overall a really good extender. And then we play 2 copies of Fluffal Wings. I feel like it's a good 2 of. It is searchable. You usually want to send it off of your Dolphin, and this is definitely a card that you search pretty often here. It's just, you need to play it. It doesn't really do anything in your hand, but while it's in the graveyard, you can target 1 toy vendor you control, banish this card from your graveyard, then target 1 Fluffal monster in your graveyard, banish it, and if you do, draw 1 card. Then you can send 1 toy vendor you control to the graveyard, and if you do, draw an additional card. So that is 2 draws, and then toy vendor triggers after this effect finishes resolving to Rhoda for another copy of any of your Fluffal cards, or I believe it also searches Edge of Sabers here. So then we play 1 Fright for Fusion. This is basically your polymerization spell that banishes cards from your graveyard or field instead of just, using monsters in your hand or on the field and then sending them to grave. This can be recycled off of Fluffal Dolphin when it gets banished, because when Fluffal Dolphin gets banished, you can shuffle into the deck 1 of your fusion spells or polymerization spells that is banished or in your graveyard. So you can find ways to recycle this. Then we play 3 Polymerization. It is a fusion-based deck, so you definitely want to play 3 copies of this. Then you play 3 copies of probably one of the best +1s in the game. Fright for Patchwork. This lets you search for a Polymerization from your deck, and also an Edge Imp monster. So this one does search any Edge Imp monster, whether it be Chain, Scythe, or Sabers. Then we play 3 Foolish Burial Goods. This is effectively another copy of Rhoda because it sends your toy vendor, which searches for any of your Fluffal monsters, also Edge Imp Sabers. Then we have Fright for Repair. You don't normally use its activation effect on field, so when you just activate it from your hand, but if you would, you do target 1 Fright for Fusion monster in your graveyard and return it to the extra deck. Then you can special 1 Fluffal or Edge Imp monster from your graveyard. It's not terrible, and it's not bad if you end up opening this card, but its graveyard effect is much better because you can banish this card from your graveyard, special summon 1 Fluffal or Edge Imp monster from your hand. So it's effectively another normal summon. It just gets another dog in the field, which gets you a Strato Surge. You can get Fluffal Penguin, which allows another additional normal summon. It can just put monsters on the field to go into your Link plays and stuff like that. So it's just very versatile. And then we have 3 Toy Vendor here. This is probably one of the best cards in the deck aside from Patchwork. Once per turn, you can discard 1 card and draw a card, and then you show it, and if it's a Fluffal monster, you can either special summon 1 monster from your hand, otherwise discard the card you drew. So if it's not a Fluffal card, you do have to send it to the graveyard, which isn't terrible because you can trigger other cards like Toy Vendor by doing this. But if you happen to rip a Fluffal dog off the top of your deck, you can special summon it, dog triggers. It's just a way to get more bodies on the field. And then lastly here we have 3 copies of Forbidden Droplets. This is just necessary to answer cards like VFD and any blanket negates in the field. You can send cards like Toy Vendor, you can probably see the theme here. Getting Toy Vendor into the grave is pretty imperative because it just gets you all of your searches. So this is just effectively another kind of pseudo hand trap, kind of like Book of Moon is in Zodiac. It is there to either bait negates or just, put blanket negation up on the board. Into the extra here we have 3 of our Fright for Cruel Whale, level 9, it's also the pop. We have 2 copies of Fright for Sabretooth. When this card is fusion summoned, you can target 1 Fright for monster in your graveyard, special summon it. We have Frightful Kraken, which can attack twice and also send one card your opponent controls to the graveyard, but if you activate the effect to send a card or a monster your opponent controls to the graveyard, it cannot attack directly this turn. We also have one copy of Frightful Tiger. This is the multi-pop card that you're usually going to be summoning with using Frightful Fusion here. You banish Sabers and any other number of Fluffal cards, and then you can pop cards up to the number of fusion material it has on your opponent's side of the field. Then we play one True King of All Calamities, because this card is just absolutely ridiculous. Being able to make your opponent not play is just ridiculous. I can't even just fathom why this card is still legal. Then we play one copy of Degreasy, because you do play 8s. These 3 are level 8s, and this is non-targeting removal, so it can get rid of Dragoons. Then we play Bahamut Shark and Toad, because we play 2 water monsters, Fluffal Penguin and Dolphin. These get you into your Bahamut Shark and then effectively your Toad play here. You can usually make Toad as your 4th, believe it would be your 4th summon, so you are playing under Nibiru, which is really nice. Then we play one copy of Access Code Talker, because it's terribly easy to get plenty of monsters on the field to use this, especially when you're reviving with Cross Shape after you fusion summon. We play one copy of Appaloosa, because it's also just really easy to make this go in first if you have like the full combo, which unfortunately I think in the duels that I have, I never really open full combo without my opponent having some sort of interaction on my turn, which isn't bad because I feel like some of the duels I have does showcase the strengths of the deck. Even though I'm not quite great at piloting this, it's definitely still something I kind of want to showcase, even though I might not be able to highlight the strengths of the deck to their best ability. Then we have one copy of Cross Sheep, which basically you use it for its effect when you fusion summon a card to an arrow it points to. You can special summon one level 4 or lower monster from your graveyard, which is really nice. Then, of course, the best kind of fusion accompaniment extra deck card that we have here, Predaplant Verte Anaconda. You can either send Polymerization from the deck to fusion summon if you have no access to Poly, and you can still get 2 monsters on board, or you can also send Frightful Fusion from your deck to the graveyard to banish cards, make Tiger kind of end the game a little bit quicker if you just needed that extra push. The side deck here was definitely really thrown together. I didn't intend on using it too much because it's just kind of hard to side in this deck, but I wanted to put in like big bomb cards to kind of just either make it to where my opponent can't play or be able to wipe their board. So we have 3 Artifact Lancia, 3 Nibiru, 1 copy of Mystic Mine because I had the extra space, and this is where it gets kind of silly. I play 1 copy of Harpy's Feather Duster, 3 Cosmic Cyclone as back row removal, and then for monster removal I said screw it and just put in Regeki and 3 Dark Hole. It seems so weird, but when I was playing some duels online, when people just wouldn't quit after the first duel, Dark Hole was actually pretty good. I think one of the duels that I have that I'll showcase here is against a hero deck, and I think I like Regeki Dark Hole the 2 turns back to back. It was insane. So I don't want to spoil anymore, so let's go ahead and just jump right into the duels. Alright, so starting the duels off here, it looks like we are playing against Invoked Shaddoll, and our opponent opened up a pretty not bad hand. 2 hand traps, one being High Impact, an Alistair, and a Race Shaddoll Windy. And we opened up 2 copies of Edgemp Chain, PSY-Frame Gamma, Fluffal Penguin, and M Scythe. So we do have a fusion play on our opponent's turn and also have a high impact hand trap. This hand is actually pretty decent, so let's see what happens. Looks like our opponent goes first and normal summons Alistair, and I Gamma that just to prevent him from going to his extra deck and doing Dogmatica combos if he was on that deck. Fortunately for us, he wasn't, so we end up activating our M Scythe and then we get Gammed back, unfortunately. So he passes to us, everything resolves. I normal summon Edgemp Chain, attack for 12, main phase 2, and then I set Droplets and pass. Our opponent rips I believe this card is Shaddoll Schism in the English. I think it still has its Shaddoll Rook is maybe what it used to be called. So he sets a copy of Windy and passes. So we are on the play now, and we draw into Frightful Patchwork. We slam Patchwork, he chains Schism, fusion summoning by banishing cards. I definitely don't think this is the right call here because it's not like he was chaining to a special summon. He might not be familiar with the deck and know that I can get out a pretty big summon just to get over this monster at any point in time under 1 summon. So he may have thought this was going to shut me down, but it really in the long run does nothing, especially when we have Droplets set. So we add our Edgemp Sabers and a Poly. Then we trigger Edgemp Chain in the graveyard here, switching our copy of Frightful Fusion, and then we play our Polymerization spell. We summon Frightful Cruel Whale using our copy of Sabers and Penguin, so Frightful Cruel Whale will trigger Unsummon, and then Penguin will trigger second, and then I believe I chain Frightful Whale's secondary effect to Foolish from deck. We do get Veilered on the pop, but we still send the Repair. we draw 2 cards, and then we end up with this hand triggering Toy Vendor. Toy Vendor searches Dolphin. Dolphin resets our copy of Toy Vendor by sending Fluffal wings, and then we go into the battle phase. We swing over the Winda, and then swing with Dolphin. Activate Toy Vendor using Fluffal wings effect to pop, draw 2, and then search. Use this to get the additional normal summon. Penguin also gives us an additional normal summon of Dog. Dog rotas us a copy of Fright for Bear, and then we go into Bahamut Shark, and then summoning Toad. Then we Fright for Fusion here, styling in our opponent a little bit harder to make VFD, and then using Bear because why not to get another copy of Toy Vendor. We pass to our opponent, and I believe at this point they scoop. If they don't, yeah, I was gonna say, they better scoop. They're not coming back from this no matter what they top deck. Going into game 2, let's look at our hands. We open up PSY-Frame Gamma, Cosmic Cyclone, Fluffal Dog, Edgem Chain, and another copy of Fluffal Dog. This is not a terrible hand, but we desperately need a fusion spell. Going back to our opponent, they open up Shaddoll Fusion, a fantastic fusion spell, one of the best in the game. Rush Shaddoll Incarnation, Effect Veiler, Shaddoll Squamata, and there can only be one. I'm assuming this was probably a side decked card. I really don't know why. I know a lot of my cards are kind of fairies and fiends, but I definitely play main decked outs to this in the form of just a single fusion monster. But then again, he might not be familiar with the matchup, so not a terrible idea for someone that's not super familiar with the deck. So I believe our opponent is on the play going first. Then he sets 2 cards. His Incarnation as there can only be one, and sets Squamata and passes. We top deck a Lancia. Not terrible here, kind of stops our opponent's ability to follow up, and then we get there can only be one in Veiler. Very unfortunate considering that we really need to dig for a copy of our Poly. So I attack into a Squamata, he pops our Fluffal Dog, and then I pass. Our opponent draws Shaddoll Beast and has Shaddoll Fusion in hand, summons his Squamata back, and then sets the Beast for some reason. I think the better play here may have been to Poly, then get the Squamata Send effect, and then get the Beast Draw effect. That could be me. I just think that this guy probably played, relatively poorly. Maybe just because he's not familiar with the matchup. So, we draw and we draw another copy of Chain. We use Dog's effect to search. He chains his copy of Incarnation, flipping his Beast. Beast will draw 2 and discard 1. And then here we have Bear now, which is nice, and PSY-Frame Gamma. So I set Toy Vendor, activate Toy Vendor by sending a Chain. Chain gets us our copy of Patchwork, and then Patchwork gets us to our Poly, which is just fantastic. So we Poly here and pretty much ball out of control. We summon Fright for Whale. We're going to pop our copy of Toy Vendor and his copy of There Can Only Be One, so we can pop off a little further. We use the additional normal summon here of Fluffal Dolphin. Dolphin sets Toy Vendor. We activate Toy Vendor. Use Toy Vendor's effects in Gamma because it's useless to have it at this point. We use Wings to send and draw 2, and then we get the Rota. We summon the Sheep because we control Dolphin. We bounce Dolphin back to hand to use for later and summon Chain. We get Verte Anaconda and then use Poly from hand. Use Sabretooth, and then he scoops. Sabretooth here would have gotten us back another copy of our whale that we used to fusion summon it with, and then we would have Verte Anaconda, sending the spell that lets us banish from our graveyard, and then pushing for game. So there is game 1 in the bag. Actually, that would be round 1, game 2. Alrighty, getting right back into it, we have round 2, and we are playing against Heroes. Yikes, this is a terrible matchup for us because Dark Law just completely shits on our deck. If we can't send our cards to the graveyard, we are not triggering any of our effects. Very unfortunate. So, our opponent opens a double copy of Destiny Hero Malicious. How terrible. This is literally a hero player's worst nightmare. I can't imagine opening both of these. Luckily for him, he does have a Hero Live, so that is his 1 out to having such a brick hand. So let's see what happens. Our opponent, of course, starts off with a Hero Lives, paid half of his life points to summon Stratos. This is basically full combo if he didn't have both of these. He searches his copy of Ferris. Ferris' effect discarding Malicious. Ferris' effect activating and equipping. I don't think it's equipping, but I think it's actually just placing this into the spell or trap zone. Then we have Vision Hero Increase, tributing Ferris to summon Vision Hero Vion from deck after it's summoned. Vion's effect will trigger. Foolish Barreling. I don't even know how to say that. Using Foolish Burial, basically, to send his copy of, I believe it is Liquid Soldier here. And basically this combo is just going to go on and on and on. Banishes a card from his graveyard, searches Poly, gets Dread Decimator here on the field, uses Poly, gets Sunrise. Sunrise's effect activates, getting Miracle Fusion. Then he uses his Miracle Fusion to banish Liquid Soldier and another card to summon his copy of Absolute Zero. Liquid Soldier, when it's banished, draws him 2 cards, and then he has to discard 1, ends on Honesty Neos and Vion. So, looking at our hand, we have Toy Vendor, Fright for Fusion, Polymerization, Forbidden Droplets, Fright for Repair, and Edge Imp Chain. Unfortunately, had our opponent played this right and you just shotgun the Master Change on his Vion, we would have lost. But thankfully for us, he didn't. So we get to pop off a little bit here. We use Droplets, so I can trigger Toy Vendor here because I needed to get the search. This will set the Toy Vendor, sending Fluffal Wings, activate Toy Vendor. Toy Vendor's effect pitching this. This will get our search. Still surprised he hasn't made Dark Claw yet. We go for Patchwork, get the ads, we poly, start to pop off a little bit, use Fright for Whale, pop the back row because I thought it was probably Mass Change. If it wasn't, I didn't want to know what it was. So I popped that, and I guess we just don't have to deal with Dark Claw this game. Not too terrible. So we trigger Cross Sheep, and then we trigger Sabretooth. Sabretooth bringing back Fright for Cruel Whale. This bringing back our copy of Wings. Then we go into Appaloosa because I'm going to pop all of his cards using Tiger, and I needed Appaloosa to negate the effect of Absolute Zero to blow my board. So I trigger Fright for Cruel Whale's effect to gain half of his attack, and then this is game. What a wild duel. Despite our opponent completely bricking, he was still able to put up a very nice board, but unfortunately for him, without Dark Claw on the field, Fluffal just pops off. Alrighty, going into game 2 here, and our opponent's opening hand is a little bit better than it was in the last game. He opens up Vision Hero Ferris, Polymerization, Elemental Hero Solid Soldier, Foolish Burial, and Fusion Destiny. Fusion Destiny and Elemental Hero Ferris here being the probably best cards in his hand. Foolish does get him access to a myriad of other cards in his deck. Then we open up Fluffal Sheep, Foolish Burial Goods, Toy Vendor, Regeki, and Fright for Fusion. Haha, we opened up a side deck card for once. How amazing. Let's see if it does us any good. So our opponent is on the play, and we are on the draw. So our opponent leads off with Ferris, ditching Soldier, equipping Increase's effect activates, sending this, and summoning Vion. Vion's effect activates by sending Malicious. Foolish Burial will send Shadow Mist. Shadow Mist will get him a add. He adds a Dusted Gold, and uses Gold's effect to search his copy of Dark Calling. We go into Cross Sky, summoning back another copy of Malicious, and then going into Dread Decimator. Then we go into Dark Calling, while activating Fusion Destiny after that. What a fantastic opening. Now, I'm assuming his line of play here was thinking that I destroy a lot of his cards, and Evil Hero Malicious Bane just can't be destroyed by battle or card effects. It is a huge monster and a problem to get over, but one thing that he forgot to count on is the fact that we play Fright for Kraken in our extra deck, and that is just a send. It's not a destruction. It's not being destroyed by battle or card effects. It's just an easy out to this card. Unfortunately, it does make our Regeki dead against the card, but it still clears 2 problems from his board. So here, we top deck our Dark Hole, and I don't want to waste Regeki yet in case I want to use it later on in the turn, and Dark Hole just after I establish a board isn't great, so I held the Regeki and activated the Dark Hole in its place. We basically get a Rhoda, search for Dolphin effect, set this, and we're just doing our whole draw and search thing at this point. There's really nothing to go into here. You can see it all happening in real time. We're going to banish, draw 2, get a search. We're going to activate the other copy of Toy Vendor, Toy Vendor's effect, sending Chain, summoning Dog, and I believe I accidentally right-clicked here. This is what I was talking about, where I just didn't search off Edge and Chain. Not because I didn't want to, but because I just fat-fingered the right-click button on EDO Pro, and it's just such a quick prompt that I'm kind of cycling through the combos in my head, like, what am I going to do? How am I going to get rid of this card? Like, is there a way to play under cards like Nibiru, which I didn't think he had Nibiru, but, you never want to kind of take that risk. I think I figured at this point there wasn't really any way to play under it, and so I'm kind of like lost on my own train of thought, and I just accidentally right-click when it gives me the prompt to search off of Edge and Chain. So thankfully for us, we still have extenders and we can still play. So I bounce this card back, summoning Chain, and this is what I was talking about. I did it again directly after it. I still didn't trigger Chain. This is so frustrating. I had the opportunity to bring it back, and then I link off, and then I just don't use it again. And I don't think I haven't used Fright for Fusion yet. So I definitely could have searched it. It's just, I hate this. I hate it so much. I should probably just go to Dueling Book so I don't, accidentally just, click something and miss the ability to activate my card effect. So this is where I was talking about. I just missed the effect twice. Very unfortunate, but thankfully for us, I think we still pretty much control the game from here. So we go to Fright for Kraken to send his Malicious Bane. Then we use it may as well be a Fright for card, but Predaplant Anaconda to summon Fright for Whale. We get our draw 2, and then I finally trigger Chain here on the 3rd attempt, which is just pitiful. So sad that I literally had to get this in the grave 3 times to activate its effect. So I push for game here. He uses his copy of Increase, and then I realize I'm a little short on damage because I can't attack directly with Fright for Kraken. Oops, my mistake. Really big mistake here because he top decks a Hero Lives and is able to start mounting a comeback. This guy is insane with his top decks. So you can see that he's able to search for his Liquid Soldier bring back Mist. Mist effect, activate to get a quick play. He's going to go increase, tribute this, increase effect to special summon, get Vion, Vion's effect to dump, then Vion's effect to banish. If he could, I guess he can't because he already has Poly in hand, he might just run one copy. Sunrise gets his copy of Miracle Fusion, goes into Cross Sky here, gets his revive on this, then I activate Scythe to get another pop off of Cruel Whale on my turn. He goes to pop it. I guess he doesn't know that this doesn't target, so I went ahead and I just got rid of his Dark Claw so I could activate my effects with no repercussions. Unfortunately, here he gets the Miracle Fusion, and then I go really low in life here, like scary low. So much so that I didn't think I was going to come back. Thankfully for me, I held the Fright for Cruel Whale effect and used its effect on the damage set to get rid of his Sunrise, which would have given me trouble in the future, and now, thankfully, I have game. I held the Regeki, I don't care about the pop, I have all these cards in my hand, and there's really nothing he can do here. So, I normal summon Fright for, Fluffal Penguin, get the additional normal summon for Dolphin, and then I just style a little bit more here. I think he ends up quitting or something happens. I think connection may have been lost, but I definitely win this one if you can't tell. Yep, it did pop up that I lost because I think like the connection dropped or whatever, but obviously this game was in the bag. Alright guys, so I was going to channel my inner MBT and do a best of 3 versus meta here after this, but unfortunately for me, after 5 games and struggling to find people that wouldn't quit, I just couldn't find somebody that was playing a meta deck that wanted to play 3 full games with me to finish a match. So I'm going to showcase a couple extra duels playing against quote-unquote meta decks, or at least decks better than the ones that we've been seeing here recently, and I thought this was a really good game to showcase. So this one is against Sky Striker, and it's definitely a weird matchup because normally they have cards that can interact with you pretty well, and you really need your like normal summon effects to go through, your searching effects that are primarily monster effects, but it makes for some unique interactions. So our opponent opens up Mystic Mine, terrible card, shouldn't exist, Effect Veiler, 2 copies of Afterburner, and then 1 copy of Sky Striker Ace, Rose. We open up Foolish Burial Goods, effectively a Rhoda, 1 copy of Forbidden Droplets, 1 Fluffal Dog, 1 Fluffal Penguin, and 1 Fluffal Sheep. For all accounts, our hand is not terrible. So we are on the plate. We activate our Rhoda. Toy searches our copy of Dolphin. Penguin, normal summon, Dolphin. Dolphin not sins, it's going to set the other copy, but we get met with Veiler. Very unfortunate. We have Bahamut Shark, our basically only follow-up play here, and then get out Toad and pass to our opponents. Our opponent top decks Gamma, how amazing. He activates Afterburners, and then his second copy of Afterburners. Here I was like, I don't really care if I miss the Shark, but I definitely need to, keep Toad on the field at this point, and he didn't target the Toad, so I was like, well, whatever, until the second Afterburner, so I was like, well, at this point, I have no monsters on the field, Toad's in the grave, Toad's going to give me an add back, and then I could utilize Afterburner if he's able to put any monsters on the field, so I do activate Toad here, stealing his copy of Afterburners. Toad tries to add back Dolphin, and then I get Gammed. This is just insane, like, this guy's luck is crazy. So he goes into Hayate after normal summoning Rose, uses Hayate's effect to send a copy of Widow Anchor, swings with Gamma. Unfortunately, he forgot to put Driver in attack, which is, I don't know, the strongest hand trap. I don't know why he would never put that card in attack, especially when you can swing. He may have just realized it too late and then put the Gamma in attack second here, so not a big deal for me, probably a big deal for my opponent. So he activates Kagari, targeting his copy of Widow Anchor in the grave, and then a chain Droplets, sending his own copy of Afterburners. Unfortunately, we don't get much use out of this, but it is a free card to send off of this. He then activates Mystic Mine for some reason. I'm not really sure what his thought process was here. He has no cards in his hand to answer it, and I lose nothing from just passing, which is what I do. So we play a little bit of kind of a cat and mouse game here where no one's really doing any chasing. We're just kind of drawing and passing until somebody can answer his Mystic Mine, which unfortunately for me, I don't have any main deck outs to it, but as long as he keeps 1 monster on board, I can out it using Fright for Cruel Whale, it's kind of like a pseudo main decked out to it. So here he activates this banishing a card so he can set his Widow Anchor using his multi-roll. I pass because I just don't see any reason in making any plays at this point. He uses multi-roll to answer his own Spell Mining Cave, and then normal summons Ray. Unfortunately, Ray cannot trigger its effect because there is no open extra monster zone. He does use Kagari, targeting his I believe it was his Shark Cannon, and then I Gamma that. Goes into Shizuka, which I don't really care about at this point, and searches a copy of Area 0. So now I am free to play, and our top deck is godly. Top deck Fright for Patchwork, and thankfully we're able to pop off. He does have his Widow Anchor here, and I don't know what he plans on doing with it. I'm sitting here thinking you probably should have activated it on the dog summon, just to kind of make sure that I can't make that play, but for some reason he takes my Link after I make it. Very odd. I don't think that was the right play on his part, but, this game has been a little stale. His hand's not the greatest, so he's probably just trying to keep me from popping off too hard. But unfortunately for him, I do have access to all of my fusion spells. I'm doing a ton of drawing, a ton of fusing. You know, I get this out of the graveyard because I'm able to attack twice regardless. He goes into Kaina and then uses her effect to make it where Sabretooth can't attack, and then I just clear his board, turning our Kraken to defense. So our opponent is on Mind Control, also has Widow Anchor, and has Area 0. This is a crazy hand. I'm sitting here thinking like, man, could this get any worse? And it gets very close to being bad. Thankfully for us, he's not able to use his copy of Shark Cannon because he does have a monster in the main monster zone, so he sets a Shark Cannon and passes. I get Fright for Sabretooth back on my turn, and I top deck the Penguin. This is great because here I can just activate this using Sabretooth and the Penguin in my hand. The Penguin will get me 2 draws and a discard, and then I get another Frightful monster on the field. Change Shark Cannon, getting Kraken back. I use Poly, making a Whale, and I was like, well, I just have a game here. I'm able to banish this to protect myself, pop the card, and then poke for game. Unfortunately, this was one of the duels where I wasn't able to get a game 2, but I definitely think it was a good showcase of the deck's power. So I think I'm going to end it here. There was a couple other duels, but I just don't feel like they really showcase how well the deck can push through interruption and stuff like that. So I wanted to thank you all for watching. Hope you all are enjoying the new Rogue Deck Wednesday segment. I'll hopefully have some better duels next time when people are more willing to play matches. But in the meantime, you know, we'll stick with what we can. I did want to take a little bit of time here to talk about the giveaway that I talked about a couple videos ago. We are now at 80 subscribers, which is dangerously close to that 100 subscriber mark. And as soon as we hit that, I will be making a giveaway video, just kind of running through everything, how I plan on doing it, how to get in contact with me, you know, making sure people check their DMs, you know, just in case I've messaged them about this. So once we hit 100 subscribers, I will be giving away a Starlight Rare for my collection, just randomly, you know, it could be really anything. I don't have anything in mind right now. I'm probably just going to do like a random.org kind of thing and then just like let it pick one of the Starlights in my collection to give away. So do be cognizant of that. Please like this video, share it if you can. Let's get us to 100 subscribers so we can do our giveaway, and I will see you guys next time. Thanks.